On to a bit more of a local front. Well, for you, how have you seen the space evolve in Indonesia, and what do you see coming up in the future, specifically Indonesia, because that is sort of your backyard at the moment?
So you've been my friends. We've been friends for several years, right? And when we first started talking, I told you about the possibility of projects happening, and the projects. Of course, my view was more towards the enterprise perspective. And when we started about 2017, a lot of people still didn't know that blockchain can be implemented in the enterprise. And sometimes they implement in the enterprise, but they are not implementing it correctly. And there were a lot of failed projects that happened that are not in our portfolio, but in the ecosystem. And that was unfortunate, but it was a learning experience. We're seeing a lot more focus on the actual blockchain solutions that provide business value now, instead of just companies trying blockchain. So they're being more realistic with it, like compared to like just a year ago or 2 years ago, where everyone was just doing blockchain either because their boss told them to try it, or because their boss read Forbes, for example, or they're doing it because of ICOs back then. So I mean, it's becoming more towards. I like it actually as a consultant because it brings it back to more traditional means of IT, as in how the IT industry actually is developed. There's always a new solution. There's always a hype cycle of always a huge hype cycle at the beginning that everyone just wants to try. Like think Dilbert cartoons, the pointy-haired boss wants Dilbert to try everything, even though he doesn't know what it's good for. But a lot of people are now looking into more. You can say it's more traditional solutions, but based on the blockchain, instead of like the lofty solutions that are big bang but are not very
realistic?
Possible or realistic. Yeah. So I think it's good, and the idea. The idea behind, the regulatory perspectives as well. The Indonesian government, within the last year, we have, we have a central bank and we have a financial services authority, right? Like, so some countries have this. I think the UK has it as well. So there's the central bank basically manages the reserves and also like the monetary part of it, but the Financial Services Authority actually is the authority for the rest of financial services other than payments. So the Indonesian Financial Services Authority already has a blockchain cluster that was starting last year. And of course, the association had a discussion as well. So there's a sandbox that is just for blockchain projects and blockchain technologies. I think that's really good. It's like they're trying. The Indonesian government is really trying to understand how to actually bring value to the nation by using blockchain, and also opening the door to paving the way really for companies to actually use blockchain, research blockchain. There's also a lot of startups that have appeared within the last few years that are doing blockchain, then putting blockchain in their value chain, their value proposition, basically. Some do logistics, some do farming, some do data farming. So there's now Indonesia is waking up more to the reality of the technology instead of the hype of the technology, which I like. It also means that I do a lot more workshops, like in-depth workshops, instead of training, instead of sharing about blockchain. What is the blockchain? Nothing like that anymore. The stuff I do now is more towards, in-depth workshops on how to create a blockchain solution for a certain use case, which of course means that these are not stuff I can post on my LinkedIn yet, because these are all private stuff. But it's actually a lot more fulfilling for me, at least, than actually just going to events and talking, because you're actually doing something. You're actually helping create something instead of just talking about it.
Yes, that's good that that's finally happening. And how do you think? And I don't know how much travel you've been doing. Obviously, not much recently, but how do you think Indonesia stands up compared to the other ASEAN nations?
Okay, ASEAN or Asian? Because I was in China last year. I spoke at Mobile World Congress.
Let's do Asian then. Let's do let's do broad.
Yeah, let's do broad. So in terms of Asia, when I went to China, I was well, China is huge. It's a huge market, and of course, I didn't get to see the entire market. But the people that I met there, most of them were still using. Most of them were still at the sort of the profit cycle, the hype cycle that basically ICOs and IEOs and crowdfunding and crypto and the rest of that. Even though there's a lot of like I went there to talk on something, basically blockchain for technology. I was on stage with Stefan Rust, who's now the CEO of Bitcoin.com. So of course the context was there. The context was more crypto. Like they recognized Stefan Rust's name. They obviously didn't recognize my name. So perhaps the attendees were more geared towards that. But yeah, I mean, it's funny though because a lot of the things that China has developed, even though they're not developing it via blockchain yet, like I'm not talking about the digital yuan. I'm talking about like the payment systems, ticketing, all of those things that they're doing. The tokens for loyalty points and Weibo, etc., and of course the digital yuan now. Those were already there. They were in place. A lot of the Chinese people were users of technology that probably have some blockchain behind it or can benefit from having blockchain behind it. But they're not talking about the technology yet. They're more talking about how cryptocurrencies. It was at the cryptocurrency stage.
But I think that most countries are like that. Like most countries, the forefront. I mean, because most people, I mean, most individuals, I mean, let's be honest, most people don't run a business. Majority of businesses aren't big businesses. So, a lot of businesses don't have the same problem that, say, your conglomerate, when we first started talking, have. And so the only way they can personally benefit from blockchain is via investment. And since you can't, in many cases, buy shares in these companies, the only way you can really profit is by buying their tokens. So
yeah, and I'm not dissing that approach. I'm not dissing that approach. I'm not disrespecting that approach at all. I think it's correct. It's part of the ecosystem and actually funds the ecosystem. It used to basically the only source of funding for the ecosystem.